Now, this is gaslighting on steroids. MSNBC host Nicole Wallace hosting Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker on her podcast. And apparently, they don't believe that any Democrat has ever compared President Trump to Adolf Hitler.
I haven't suggested that Donald Trump is Hitler. I wouldn't say
I don't
that
think
about-
any Democrat has. I actually, and I think it's a smear that they project back on to critics.
Well, let's just say the archives disagree. Roll the tape.
Timu Hitler in the White House right now.
Incredibly dangerous that Donald Trump would invoke Adolf Hitler.
That's Hitler's language.
Reenacting the Madison Square Garden rally in 1939.
Everything that he has done has been tearing down constitutional democracy. And that's what happened in Nazi Germany.
This is not Germany. That's the SS and the Gestapo.
The tape never lies. Jesse, I believe you called him JB back ribs.
Yeah. Well, this would be like if Trump said, I never suggested the Democrats stole the election. It's just so obvious. Nicole Wallace has leveled this charge. Guests on her show week after week have leveled this charge. This is so dumb. We just did a segment on the fact that Democrats should be talking about healthcare, the economy, education, and they still go with Hitler. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. But you know what? I don't care. I'm going to do the opposite, Greg. I think they should call the president Hitler. And I also think that the ballroom should not be built.
Nice.
Go.
Nice.
I like that tack. You know, Dana, there's maybe, okay, the gratuitous interpretation of this is he's not lying. It's just become so much a part of the vernacular of the left that they don't even realize they say it, which is a scary proposition.
Right. So they said they didn't call him Hitler. They called him a fascist, called federal agents under him the Gestapo, called ISIS secret police, called him a totalitarian, called his events Nazi rallies, but they didn't say Hitler. But then we saw that they did call him Hitler. Just last week, a Democratic candidate for a major House seat in California literally said Trump was Hitler because Hitler also liked building ballrooms.
Oh, yes.
So we bring it full circle. But the real guilty party of this might also be the media. Because about 10 or 12 years ago, if you used Hitler against one of your political opponents here in America, the media would take you to task. They would say, that's outrageous. You would be forced to apologize. But then Kamala Harris made fascism her closing argument, and the media all agreed.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. And the media is so culpable. I mean, Greg, I remember back when I was at CNN, when Donald Trump was first on the horizon, there was an assertion from my left-wing colleagues that a rally of his, people had positioned their hands as if they were at a Hitler rally. I mean, this is going on for 10 years, and you don't have people pushing back.
Well, I mean, okay, so a little when you look at, we just played a small number of the references. It could have taken up the whole show. Do they believe that they're not doing it, or do they not care?
Right.
And I do think that they are more interested in winning arguments than seeking out the truth. And the best example is going after Hegseth for his non-Hitler tattoos, but going after but then letting this other guy who had an actual Nazi tattoo. So they're not interested in the truth. They're just interested in winning the argument. They don't care. Could be some cognitive dissonance going there where they're just rationalizing the fact that the reality doesn't match their beliefs. And if Nicole Wallace suddenly realized how wrong she was, the whole facade might crumble, which would be really hard to imagine. But I do think that they might have been citing Hitler so much. It's like Palmolive, you know, they're soaking in it. They don't even know. Or maybe they think that like they aren't comparing Trump to Hitler because that makes Hitler look bad. I don't know. I know Harold's going to disagree with me on this. We cannot let the Dems move forward until they look backward, because you've got to face these errors. You know, who's to say, not in the future, the Dems are going to demonize another Republican candidate to the point of putting them at risk, putting their lives at risk, or they're going to run and try to elect a severely compromised, infirm candidate because the person they just compared to Hitler is far worse than the man who's mindless. Now it's Trump Hitler. It's not just Hitler you're running against. This is why there has to be a reckoning, because they're going to keep doing this. It's actually going to get worse.
Yeah, last week they called Vance a Hitler.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're getting ready.
You would think they are entirely. You would think after 2 assassination attempts against Trump, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, it'd be very simple to just be like Fetterman and say, hey, guys, let's not call anyone Hitler.
I agree. I mean, I think when you get, I agree with everything that's been said around the table. I disagree slightly with Greg, but I think you always have to look forward. But your substance was right. The answer to that question should have been, Nicole, we have too much of this back and forth in our politics. He's not Hitler, nor we low IQ or dumb. We've got to get beyond this. We're living in a time in which the country's facing elections where affordability is on the ballot for Democrats and Republicans, and the president's talking about we're the hottest country in the world. If that's the case, why is consumer confidence at a 6-month low? Why are auto payments at the highest delinquency rate in a year? It's because a lot of Americans are struggling. Let's get past all the language. It's causing things we don't want to have happen. Let's get back to talking about issues. Instead of engaging, the more we engage, it's same as the last segment. If we swing at every pitch outside the strike zone, we're not going to win.
You keep saying this analogy, but they were never talking about issues, Harold. I can't remember.
So we can't sit here and say crime is bad and we want a crime bill. The last time we had a crime bill was a Democrat. The last time we had a balanced budget in this country was a Democrat that was president, a Republican Congress. All I'm saying
crime is down under Republicans.
But let's get back. I don't agree with you when you say Democrats. We've never been on the right side of these issues. The Republicans have a moment right now, and I'm saying to my party, they will continue to have a moment if we do the things which you so eloquently said, and I think has been repeated around the
I
table.
think the left should listen to Jesse's advice at the top of the segment and not Harold's. All right. Up next, actor Charlie Sheen is blowing Bill Maher's mind with his no-nonsense fix for crime.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.